James's promise. It was late one evening on the main line. The other engines had finished their hard work, especially Henry. The big green engine felt tired and weary. He backed up into the shed. The other engines were the busiest. "I knew the tourists were good for the railways," sighed Henry. "But they're making us busy," Gordon finished. Pip looked over slightly puzzled.
"I thought you had denim. Take some trains to Vickerstown,"
she said.
"Yeah,
Added Emma.
but that's not enough."
"What we really need is, another engine to help us," put it Richard, feeling a little bit puzzled but finished. "I'm sure we're lucky enough finding another engine to get the job done," pointed out Dudley. The other engines knew exactly what the Northwestern Railway needed. After all, seeing real steam engines running properly was one of the main attractions for tourists. They just needed to know where to find one just as James arrived. He had returned from Barrow Furnace, the station where the Northwestern Railway interchanged trains with the mainland. "You're back late, little James," observed Gordon. "Yes," replied James. "My local train was delayed coming down from London. Now, what's all this about?" "Find another engine for the main line," said Bear.
"That needs some help,
Added Pip.
so we don't get busy enough."
Finished Emma. "You can say that again," agreed James. Suddenly, to the surprise of the other engines, James grinned. "Gordon, old buddy boy," he asked, "do you remember the time you went to London?" "Yes," replied Gordon. "I thought King's Cross was no longer the London station, but I learned that there are lots of stations there." "That's true," agreed James. "So, didn't you tell me you saw another engine?" asked Dudley thoughtfully. "Yes, another steam engine up there on the mainland. I didn't see it, but heard that she was black just like you, the Scottish twins, Ginty, and Pug, too," James added, thinking back today. He had just arrived at Vickerstown with his local passenger train. Once he dropped off his passengers and got ready to return to Knapford. "Who would have seen my shiny red paint?" he thought. And then there was someone caught in his eye. A black engine. She looked bigger than James. She had 6 driving wheels and a small dome. She looked very happy. "Hi, I'm James. What's your name?" the red engine asked. The other engine looked curiously and very happy.
"Well, I'm Mary. It's nice to meet you, James."
"You too, Mary," smiled James. "I was built and stabled in Harwich until I went to the Northwestern Railway in Black, just after the grouping."
"How wonderful!"
gasped Mary.
"How was it there?"
"Splendid," replied James. Mary thought back many years ago, recalling all the job times on the Lancashire Railway. "I was painted in black," James continued, "until I crashed into the field back on Sodor. I was rescued from there, and now I'm always painted red. I must say I'm surprised to see you. How did you end up here?"
"I was bought by the Lancashire Preservation Society. A few decades ago when diesels were coming in, now I give rides to the tourists behind a steam engine. It's not too bad, but I'm not allowed to go too far. It would be nice to stretch my wheels again.
James was pleased. I'll talk to Sir Topham Hatt. He's our controller back on our railway. Maybe you could come and visit there sometime. Then you could pull the first train if you want to be a really useful engine like all of us. Mary hoped so, and had a lot to do with Denham. Soon the conversation was interrupted by the guard's whistle. "We'll have to get going now, I'm afraid," said James, as the two engines said goodbye to each other, thinking it was really nice to have introductions, and left. "And that's when I left with my red coaches," finished James. The other engines were interested in the story James told. "Did you end up talking to Sir Topham Hatt about her?" asked Gordon. James suddenly was surprised. "Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention it!"
James, calm down.
laughed Pip.
You can tell him about her in the morning.
James took deep breaths and decided to make sure that he had to mention Mary to Sir Topham Hatt the next morning as agreed. So he just did it on a light rainy day and kept his promise. Sir Topham Hatt nodded his head thoughtfully. "Yes, Mary's just like who we need. I'll start making arrangements and contact the president of the Lincolnshire Railway Preservation Society." The guard's whistle blew, and James set off. Meanwhile in London, James was the last thing on Mary's mind. She hadn't taken any trains for the rest of the day, and her tender was empty since she had a last run. She was so sad, and she knew why. Just then, a car pulled outside the shed. Stepping out of the car was a man. He walked over to the shed, talking to Mary. His name was Dave Matthews, the president of the Lincolnshire Preservation Society.
Hello, Dave.
"Hello, Mary. I'm afraid we haven't been successful,"
I understand.
said Mary. "There's a borough council in East Anglia who are doing this in one of their parks," explained Dave Matthews. "They're making you a central attraction there for children. I'm afraid we have no choice, Mary. I'm sorry." Mary understood. She decided for Dave Matthews to let the others know. She'd be grateful. Dave Matthews agreed and drove away in his car. Mary had meant what she had told him about being grateful, and although it wasn't a busy enough time of her life, she had enjoyed working with the volunteers who had become her friends, or being rather scrapped. But that's another story.